What if Anakin was an adult when found by the Jedi? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Anakin watches as Obi-Wan holds Rotta the Hutt, the son of Jabba, in his hands, as Obi-Wan explains the rumors that the Jedi kidnapping his son are false. Jabba's expression softens in a way that Anakin has rarely seen from the Hutt, but any weakness quickly vanishes as he calls for his guards to seize the Jedi. Anakin draws his blaster, but hesitates. He feels a tingling in his head and steps forward. Wait, the Jedi is telling the truth.
The Mighty Jabba demands to know how you've come to this conclusion.
I don't have any proof, but I've sensed something in them. To the Jedi's surprise, Jabba seems to consider this. Since he was a boy, Anakin has possessed unusually fine senses that Jabba had come to rely on. Instead, he orders Obi-Wan to be detained. The Jedi stares at Anakin in surprise, sensing the Force stirring within him. Not long after, Anakin is proven true, as Zero the Hutt confesses, admitting that it was indeed Count Dooku responsible for kidnapping Rotta. Furious, the Hutt releases the Jedi and signs an alliance. But during his short stay, Obi-Wan becomes convinced that there is something more to Anakin.
The Jedi would be grateful for any alliance against Dooku.
Do not mistake it for softness, Jedi. Dooku has wronged the great Jabba, and does not forget such things.
I understand, and may I be so bold as to inquire about that man who spoke out for us? Who is he? He's no ordinary mercenary.
His name is Anakin Skywalker. He was once a slave, bound to a Toydarian, along with his mother. In his youth, the Mighty Jabba took him into his service. He is now the harbinger of Jabba's will.
This man, Anakin, has the potential to be far more than a simple guard. Let him accompany me to Coruscant.
The wise Jabba rejects this. Skywalker is too useful to him here. He will not part with his best asset.
Your alliance with the Jedi will benefit from this. With Anakin trained in our ways, we could defeat Dooku and safeguard your interests.
The great Jabba agrees, but understand this. He is still property. If he goes with you, it is on loan.
Agreed.
As they head home, Obi-Wan takes this time to question Anakin about his powers. For the young guard, he has little knowledge of the Force and just assumes it's a combination of instincts and luck. But the Jedi Master knows better. He suspects that Anakin is Force-sensitive, and his senses are the Force calling out to him and guiding him. To prove his point, he takes a blood sample and reveals that Anakin has the highest midichlorian count ever recorded. He offers to train Anakin and induct him into the Jedi Order. But these plans come to a halt as the Jedi Council refuses to allow Anakin into the Jedi Order. You vouch for this man, Obi-Wan, but a grown man, one who has lived as a criminal, a slave, and is bound to a Hutt, allowing him to join the Jedi Order. It's highly irregular.
I understand, Master Windu, but I have seen Anakin's potential. Look at his midichlorian count. With guidance, he may become the one we've been looking for. He has lived for far too long beyond the reach of Jedi training. He carries attachments, emotions, and impulses that are dangerous.
Concerning it is, in service of a Hutt. More to a Jedi than power there is. Inner peace, wisdom, a difficult path. When grown, he already is.
Anakin's upbringing gives him perspective. I would take full responsibility for his training. Keep him on probation if you must, but I'm convinced we must take this chance. For the Republic's sake, and for the balance of the Force.
Very well, Obi-Wan. On probation, we shall allow him.
And remember, Obi-Wan, this probation is not an acceptance into the Order. Any failure to follow the Jedi Code, any lack of discipline, and he will be dismissed. Obi-Wan understands and explains all of this to Anakin, who developed many unsavory habits like gambling, whoring, and drinking. It takes a stern talking to from the Jedi Master, who explains just how much he put on the line to convince Anakin to take his training seriously. They begin their training, and for a while, Anakin can do little more than levitate pebbles or slide things across the table with the Force. but this is a huge step for a Jedi. Harnessing the Force seems like it unlocked something within him. As the power flows through him, Anakin truly understands who he is. That feeling is unlike anything he's ever experienced, and inspires him to continue his studies. Slowly, he begins to grow his powers. Lightsaber combat is a bit tricky for him, as Anakin is used to fighting with a blaster, and the weapon feels unnatural in his hands. However, he slowly begins to improve, and becomes a competent duelist. From an outsider looking in, it seems Obi-Wan is correct, and Anakin is turning out to be an excellent pupil. But even as he spends more and more time within the Order, Anakin remains an outsider. Most of the Jedi remain distrustful of him, with the Jedi Council not believing Anakin is ready, while regular Knights and Masters question Anakin's intention, as he is still a member of the Hutt Empire. Their scornful looks are not lost on Anakin, who in turn grows to dislike the haughty Jedi. They manage to complete several missions on Coruscant, but one of their biggest ones is taking out a smuggling ring in the streets of Coruscant. The two Jedi descend to a dimly lit warehouse lined with crates bearing the Pike Syndicate symbol and holding their spice. The two slip through the corridors, dodging guards as they make their way to the center of the warehouse, where the captain and several of his underlings are waiting. Suddenly, one of the guards spots them and shouts a warning. Blasters are drawn, but the Jedi are moving, their lightsabers ready. Anakin charges forward, deflecting blaster bolts, and throws the pike back with a force push. Obi-Wan leaps beside him, slashing their weapons and knocking them aside. In seconds, they manage to defeat half a dozen pikes and send the rest scattering. Anakin uses his quick kicks and punches to send the pikes scattering. Finally, the last pike tries to bolt for the exit, but Obi-Wan catches him with a force pull, forcing him to his knees.
Looks like we have everything. Let's see if they're willing to talk. We know the Syndicate has been moving spice through the core worlds. Tell us who you're working with, and maybe you'll avoid a harsher sentence.
You think you scare us, Jedi? We've been through worse.
Anakin's expression hardens. Without warning, he steps forward and yanks the Pike leader up by his collar.
Oh, you will talk. One way or another.
You're a Jedi. You can't touch me.
Think again. I'm not here as a Jedi. I don't think Jabba will mind losing a few rivals.
Anakin raises his lightsaber and holds it up to his throat, letting the blade brush up against the gangster. But before it can go further, Obi-Wan grabs Anakin and pulls him away, glaring at him. After a moment, his gaze falters, and he lowers his lightsaber. Reluctantly, he sets the pike down, who crawls away to join his companions.
This is not the way we operate. The Jedi do not use fear and intimidation to enforce order. Sometimes fear is the only language these types understand, Master. Do you think words are going to stop them? That's enough, Anakin. The Order has standards, and as long as you wear the Jedi robes, so should you. That behavior is fine for gangsters, but you're a Jedi, and I expect you to act like one.
Slowly, Anakin bows his head, as a hint of shame dawns on him.
Apologies, Master. Let's just take them into custody.
Unfortunately, the damage is done, as the Jedi Order hears about the situation and calls Anakin and Obi-Wan to answer for his crimes. The young Jedi's jaw sits tightly as he stares at the gathered council.
We've had concerns about you from the beginning, Anakin, and this incident only proves them true. Such behavior, using fear and intimidation, has no place here.
Discipline you lack. Control you have not yet found.
You've all been waiting for this, haven't you? To tell me I don't belong here. I've always known you didn't trust me. Trust must be earned. You came to us under unusual circumstances. This probation was a chance for you to prove yourself. And I'm still willing to prove myself. I made a mistake, fine, and I admit that. But I'm not just going to pretend that the galaxy works the way you want it to. Sometimes you have to do what's necessary. Masters, Anakin made a mistake, but he's willing to learn. I believe he can overcome these impulses and become the Jedi we need. And until he may or may not overcome these impulses, how many must be hurt in the process? I wish young Skywalker the best of luck, but this will not be the place for him to improve his impulses. Understood. I won't waste your time with my presence any longer.
Although Obi-Wan pleads with the Jedi Council to give Anakin one more chance, they are firm in their decision, believing that Anakin is not ready to be a Jedi. Obi-Wan then threatens to leave the Order to continue Anakin's training. At first, Anakin is shocked and urges him not to give up his position, but Obi-Wan is firm. Together, the two friends leave to continue Anakin's training, but this leaves them with a new dilemma: where to find a new place to train Anakin. Without the Jedi's support, they must find their place. Obi-Wan decides to take their training to Mandalore. With the new pacifist government, it is the perfect place for Anakin to train. If the Mandalorians can rise from their warrior past and become a society of peace and culture, then it shows that Anakin can rise and become better as well. When Duchess Satine hears this, she is incredibly pleased and welcomes Anakin as an experiment in her new society. There, Obi-Wan continues to train the young Jedi, teaching him about the Force and the philosophy behind it. He tries to get Anakin to understand restraint and care. While it takes some effort, Anakin slowly improves. From the angry gangster, Anakin emerges as a much calmer and level-headed Jedi. Despite that, they still get to keep their skills honed by dealing with the threats on Mandalore. Groups like the Death Watch, corrupt police, and smugglers offer Anakin plenty of opportunities to show his skills as a peacekeeper. This time, though, Anakin is careful to keep his anger in check. This impresses Obi-Wan, who even suggests that Anakin return to the Jedi Order. Seeing how far he's come, they might be more willing to accept him. However, the young Jedi refuses and says he would rather forge his own path. But there is another reason. As the more time Obi-Wan spends on Mandalore, the more his old love of Satine comes rushing back. Soon he begins questioning whether he can keep his Jedi vows.
You've grown more than I could have ever imagined, but Mandalore is complicated. And with Satine, well, it's not easy to leave all this behind.
Not easy is putting it lightly, Master. I know you care about her. Maybe it's time to be honest with yourself. If anyone deserves peace, it's you.
But the Jedi path doesn't allow for attachments. Even with all the changes, that rule still stands. And if I were to leave the Jedi Order, what kind of example would that set?
The kind that shows we're more than rules. You've spent your whole life serving others, sacrificing more than most. Maybe it's time for you to choose for yourself.
You sound like you've been giving this some thought.
Whatever you choose, I'll make sure Mandalore is safe. You can count on that.
Thank you, Anakin. I'm not sure where I'll end up, but knowing Mandalore is in capable hands makes it a little easier to decide. Goodbye, my friend. May the Force be with you.
And with you, Master. Always. Anakin makes good on his promise of keeping Mandalore safe. Even without Obi-Wan, he's able to deal with the smugglers and criminals that get in his way. He even takes out a few hidden cells of Death Watch. But little does he know that dark clouds are rising as Maul gathers a criminal empire under the Jedi's noses. Among these groups are the Hutts. Jabba soon sends out a message to Anakin, as Pre Vizsla reports him being there. As Anakin reviews the latest security reports, he receives a hologram from Jabba's personal protocol droid.
Transmission from the illustrious Jabba the Hutt. Master Anakin, you are hereby ordered to rejoin Jabba's service. His new allies demand you assist in the reclamation of Mandalore.
Anakin's expression tightens as he remembers his promise to Obi-Wan to keep Mandalore safe. Tell Jabba, Mandalore's protection comes first. I have made commitments here too, and cannot abandon that.
I must advise you, Master Anakin, that failing to obey Jabba's commands will be regarded as betrayal. His patience wears thin.
Jabba glowers at the report from his droid, anger flashing in his eyes. He roars, his Huttese growls echoed by the sycophants around him as they call for Anakin's head. A figure steps forward.
Patience, Jabba. Killing him would be short-sighted. I have a plan that may prove more effective. From what you told me, we have someone he cares about more than anyone else in the galaxy.
A quiet evening on Mandalore, but Anakin's peace is shattered as a hologram transmission lights up before him. It is the protocol droid once again, causing Anakin to scowl.
I told you I'm not interested in whatever you have planned.
However, the next figure to materialize is Darth Maul, who smirks at him.
Anakin, I thought it was time we spoke directly.
What do you want, Night Brother? I'm not interested in any of your schemes.
On the contrary, this concerns you greatly. You see, I have someone with me. Someone precious to you.
The hologram shifts, revealing a shadowy image of Shmi Skywalker. She's flanked by 2 guards who keep a firm grip on her. Anakin's eyes widen, his heartbeat quickening. Mom!
Yes, she's here. Safe. For now. I know the Jedi have twisted you into believing you're above all attachment, Anakin. But I also know they never trusted you, never valued you. You're expendable to them.
What do you want?
Join us. Help restore order to the Outer Rim, and I will keep your mother safe, even free her from her chains. All I ask is that you remember your roots, Anakin. You are a criminal, and you will help me by securing Mandalore. I want information, and you to sabotage the defense efforts.
Anakin hesitates, torn between his promise to Obi-Wan and the desire to protect his mother. Maul, sensing the conflict, presses further. Fine. I'll help you. But if anything happens to Satine or my mother, I'll make sure you regret it, Maul.
Very well. We'll be in touch. And I look forward to seeing what the real Anakin Skywalker is capable of.
Although he grapples hard with his feelings, Anakin cannot shake off the silent pleas of his mother. She is perhaps the most helpless out of anyone here, being just a slave, and Anakin cannot bring himself to simply abandon her. Slowly, he begins to make the preparations Maul wants. Police are redirected away from key sites to give Maul's troops a smooth arrival. He also sends detailed information about the best targets and what they can strike. The few security forces on the ground are helpless against the Dark Lord's attacks, leaving them to be crushed. Anakin stands beside Duchess Satine in her palace as the enemy soldiers draw close. Duchess, it's over. We're outmatched. If you surrender, Maul might spare the lives of those left.
You would have me surrender Mandalore to a Sith? What happened to the vow you made Obi-Wan?
Before he can respond, the heavy doors slam open. Maul strides in, darksaber in hand. Anakin's lightsaber springs to life, but Maul is faster, his red blade flashing as they clash. Anakin steps forward and readies his lightsaber. He blocks an attack aimed at Satine and counters with a set of vicious slashes at Maul. He feels the aggression in him building after everything he's had to do. Now he has a way to unleash it. But wherever his lightsaber strikes, Maul is there to block. He laughs and shakes his head.
Such aggression is unbecoming for a Jedi, and you do not have the experience to be a Sith.
Anakin's answer is a few quick slugs to the face. Maul's head snaps back and grins. He suddenly headbutts Anakin, letting his horn slash across his cheek, and then throws him back. Anakin stumbles to his feet as Maul advances and unleashes a force push. Anakin tries to meet it with his own, but his powers are no match for him, and he slams into the wall. He tries to push back, shaking off his control, but Maul keeps him pinned. With a soft pull, he yanks Anakin's lightsaber from his hand. Despite that, Anakin continues to rush forward, leaping over Maul's follow-up slash and kicking him across the face. He follows with a few quick jabs, but his mistake is trying to go for the legs. Maul chuckles as his low sweep barely moves him, and he slams one metallic foot down on Anakin's chest, holding his lightsaber against his throat.
Enough. I'll surrender if you let him live.
Very wise, Duchess. Mandalore belongs to me now.
Satine raises her hands in surrender. She subtly activates a hidden communicator, sending out a message, a desperate call to Obi-Wan. She is led away, but once they are alone, Anakin feels Maul standing before him.
Well done, young one. I think that was a convincing performance. I could feel your hatred. Enough talk. Where is my mother? She's in the Death Watch camp. You're free to pick her up.
Satine is locked up in the Sundori prison, and for several days remains there. That is, until one Mandalorian supercommando appears before her and removes his helmet to reveal Obi-Wan.
Satine, I'm getting you out of here.
Wait, what about Anakin?
I didn't find him in the prison, but we cannot wait. I'm sure he's fine, wherever he is.
Taking Satine by the hand, Obi-Wan begins leading her away and out of the prison. They find a speeder and drive off back to his waiting ship. But as they fly through the city streets, they are spotted by several super commandos who give chase after them. Obi-Wan does his best to try and evade them as he makes his way towards the docks. No sooner does he power up the ships than a dozen super commandos emerge, their blasters firing at them. Obi-Wan activates the turret and prepares to return fire, but a ship leaps out and cuts them down. Anakin draws his lightsaber and whirls around, clearing a path for them.
Anakin, I'm glad to see you. Hold on a second, I'll lower the ramp.
No, Obi-Wan. Take the ship and get out of here. I can't leave.
Anakin, this isn't the time to be a hero.
Before they can respond, Maul steps out from the shadows, his presence dark and triumphant. He deflects the shots fired against him as several commandos rush to his side.
Skywalker, why am I not surprised?
Obi-Wan, get out of here.
Already? Before you hear about who your apprentice joined with? Anakin, you allied with Maul?
He had my mother. I didn't have a choice.
There's always a choice, Anakin. I thought you learned that.
He prepares to fly away, but it's too late as the commandos all fire their jetpack rockets, hitting the ship's engines and sending it crashing to the ground. Obi-Wan and Satine barely manage to bail out, but immediately find themselves attacked by Maul.
You should have known, Kenobi. There's no escape from me.
Obi-Wan's lightsaber ignites as Maul comes at him, his attacks as fierce and swift as ever. Each one threatens to unsteady him, but the Jedi manages to find his center. He blocks each attack and maintains his footing. After a particularly savage swing, Obi-Wan slashes his blade forward, catching Maul's weapon and pushing it aside. He follows by sliding it across his side, leaving Maul hissing in pain. But as he clutches his side, Maul twists his lightsaber around, letting the double blades swing around and force Obi-Wan into a corner. His gaze goes to Satine for a second, allowing Maul to grab him by the cuirass and slam him against the wall, his lightsaber following and striking Obi-Wan's side. Though it burns into him, the Jedi Master keeps his cool. He pulls one leg back and kicks Maul aside, sending him stumbling.
Kill him!
Around him, super commandos raise their weapons, but a blur takes them off guard as two of them lose their heads. He glances around and sees Anakin rushing through the debris. He cuts his way through the guards and tries to clear a path. When he runs his lightsaber through one guard, he snatches his blaster and fires at those who try to escape.
Your sentiment makes you weak.
Maybe, but my friends make me strong. I just didn't realize it at the time. Maul's eyes narrow as Anakin approaches, the bodies of his commandos falling around him. Anakin pauses, lightsaber ready.
Are you expecting forgiveness?
No, but I still got a lot to make up for. Starting now. Maul's sneer deepens as he lunges at both Jedi. Anakin and Obi-Wan both slide out of the way, their lightsabers thrusting at him. Maul is forced to duck under their attacks and charges low, trying to ram them. This succeeds in knocking the Jedi off their feet. As he slashes his lightsaber in a wide arc, Anakin pulls his legs up and narrowly avoids the attack. Instead, he slams both legs into him and leaps to his feet. Obi-Wan, meanwhile, jumps to his feet and throws Maul back with the Force. As he hits the wall, Maul shakes his head and hurls some debris at them, but Anakin slides between each attack. He grabs Maul's hand and uses it to pull himself forward as he punches him. The blows are enough to disorient the Sith Lord as Obi-Wan advances and slashes across his legs, sending sparks flying as he severs some circuits. Maul stumbles around and tries to hop, but somehow manages to block his attacks. He grabs Anakin and swings him around like a club, knocking against Obi-Wan before starting to squeeze the life out of him. Anakin gasps, but Maul closes his fingers against his throat. Obi-Wan watches this and takes a deep breath. Then he hurls his lightsaber, which slices Maul's leg and leaves him stumbling to the ground. Maul glances up as Obi-Wan stands over him and brings his lightsaber down. Anakin begins to get up, but sees Obi-Wan's hand as he helps him to his feet. So, no, I forgive you?
No, but there is a thank you for being here.
With Maul dead, the Shadow Collective is in disarray, allowing the three to make their escape. While Obi-Wan and Satine flee to Coruscant, Anakin frees his mother and returns to Tatooine. There, he doesn't become Jabba's enforcer, but assassinates him and takes over his holdings. With his resources, he eventually gathered enough forces to liberate Mandalore and begin freeing slaves in the Outer Rim. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan manages to capture Dooku in the Battle of Coruscant. But taking everything he's learned from Anakin, the Jedi Master tries to convince him to turn back to the light, asking for his help in finding the Sith Lord. It takes some time, and the Jedi are initially skeptical of these efforts, but it works, as Dooku is slowly won over and reveals everything to Obi-Wan about Palpatine and their plan. With this information, Palpatine is swiftly arrested, and the war is brought to a quick end. Obi-Wan soon makes efforts to establish a temple on Mandalore to help become closer to the people. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.